Did you always know that you wanted to be a dancer?
I knew I always wanted to be a dancer. I'm not really, or never have been someone that's like really talkative, and my friends and probably my company members would probably say that's not true because I talk a lot, but I've always been someone that was more observant and would love just kind of sitting and watching people. And it's kind of like people always ask me, "Oh, I bet you when you go to parties, you just go and dance on the floor." I said, "Well, no, I actually don't. I just go in and I actually sit down, and I find a lot of joy in like just observing people and the way they move." So I knew I wanted to move because it was the easiest way for me to communicate. I never felt odd, and somehow I always felt odd trying to express my feelings through speech. And when I started dancing, there was nothing like it. I just didn't know that I could do it for a living because in school, you're teacher, doctor, lawyer, they have these like exact things that these career paths. So artist, dancer was never there.
Right. It's never
and
offered.
What'd you say?
It's not offered.
No, not in that way. And if it is, it's like something extra. So I didn't really know that it was something that I could do until I got to high school.
One of the I read, or maybe I heard in one of your videos. I don't know. I've watched so much of you the last week. No, it's good. Well, I remember one thing that you said was that you had a hard time with your dance teacher, just telling you that your body wasn't made for dance, something like along those lines.
Yeah, it was actually a doctor. I had a lot of injuries when I was younger in high school. And I went to a doctor, and he was like, "Well, basically, your body isn't really structured for dance." So I said, "Oh, wow, okay. Well, that's something you say to a teenager. That's nice." So I always had in my mind that I had to fight against the grain because this wasn't something that I was like made to do, which is kind of ridiculous because no one decides what you're made to do.
Exactly. Something you've written as well is, let me quote you, is you strive to build a strong sense of storytelling, constantly connecting history with the contemporary. So tell me what that looks like in a piece.
Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago, I choreographed a piece called Mr. Tall Errants, and it's about Black stereotypes in the media, both historic and current. And I think that in order for us to show that these are still stereotypes that have lived and still are living, and it's a cycle, it's important for us to go back to history and see. Also, for people who might not understand or really know what minstrelsy stereotypes are, to see that, to teach them in a way and to educate them about these things. So you have your current things, which we can connect to now because we're living in it. But then if you want to make a bigger statement, I feel like it's important for you to know where these things have come from. And that's in everything too, for me.
So you've got a linguistic play debuting this year called Black Girl?
Black Girl Linguistic Play.
Yay. Tell me about that. What's that all about?
Yeah. So that actually is the next piece that I did after Tolerance. And Tolerance was focused on stereotypes.
Right.
When I was just doing Tolerance as the only evening length, I would get Black women that would come up to me and say, "Well, are you going to do something that's specific about Black women?" Because the stereotypes were the thug, the video vixen, but they were interested in knowing if I was going to tackle like all of the stuff, all of the stereotypes within the Black female. And so I felt this energy of obligation, and I said I didn't want to do it out of that because at that point you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for other people or what you think they want you to do. So I said, okay, well, if you're going to do it, it's got to be from like your place. And at the time, because we had such an intense process with Tolerance, I was really exhausted by stereotypes. And I still feel to a point, I live between stereotypes of the angry Black female, the strong Black female. So I found myself very exhausted talking about it and living it because I am exhausted. So what I wanted to do is talk about Black girls just being Black girls. Like, what does that mean for me if I could just not think about the stereotypes for a second, and who was I before someone told me who I was and how I was supposed to act, and what my body could do. So that's about showing the spectrum of who we are, showing the human quality, the human condition, because I think far too often it is so heavy on stereotype that you don't see the human aspect of the Black female. And I find that this piece, it's called linguistic play, just in terms of what are the languages in which we communicate with each other, through rhythm, through gesture, some gestures that we all know that, you naturally do, that are unspoken, that's an unspoken language. So I want to talk about that. And I found that this process is both empowering, but also painful at times, because I decided that I wanted the aspect of childhood to be a part of it. It took a very long time for me to get back to my childhood, because I feel like I've been an adult for so long, and saturated by adult things for so long. So I wanted to get back to that. And in remembering that, I started thinking about my grandparents, but then I started thinking about when I got teased and what that meant, and when was the first time that I was told that I was short, or had big eyes, or had big lips. Like, at what point did identity play an important role within my childhood? And a lot of that, for all of us, there's 5 other women in the work. We had a rehearsal today, and with 3 of them at first, and 2, they started crying. We were just doing simple gestures. And I think about something that matters so much to you and that you rarely see, it makes it even more important. I know that was a very long answer.
No. I love it. No, you're absolutely right. And it brings up, I guess you can't convey these messages or communicate this to an audience without being personal, without because you're being authentic about your experience, and there's no way to sort of get around that. I think that's what's so beautiful about it, is in the joy of putting this piece together and this work together. It's also sort of therapeutic as well, right? Thank you for all your time, Camille. Really appreciate it. It was so lovely to meet you.